A relationship is really a way in which two or more persons are connected. That is what a relationship is, and it is that aspect of association, connection, and interaction between two people. There's got to be two people involved. You cannot have a relationship with, and we are only dealing with one person. So two people, two or more. So that's where it all begins. There's got to be more than one person. And a good relationship really is where people are mutually dependent on each other. There's that aspect of interdependence, which is very crucial. For some reason, maybe we will understand one day when we meet God, but He intended for human beings to coexist, to be interdependent, to rely on one another for different things. So that is really what I can say off the cuff is a relationship, and a good one for that. And when we look at what I think would define a relationship, what I'd like to say about a relationship really is a connection between two or more people who are brought together by choice or by fate, or maybe even by God's will. But really, there's got to be a connection between the two people, and there's got to be an events around, that bring these people together, whether it is intentional or unintentional, but there's got to be what brings these two people together. Now, what is a healthy relationship? By that definition, it means that we are all in relationships, different types of relationships. So what is a healthy relationship? A healthy relationship is one that is mutual and where each person looks out for the other person's good and boundaries are clear and respected. I'll take that again. A healthy relationship is one that is mutual and where each person looks out for the other person's good and boundaries are clear and respected. I'll share something. One of the writers by the name of Dr. Stan Tatkin says, he's a marriage and family therapist, and he says that relationships is an opportunity to be interdependent for survival. He says some relationships are so crucial that you need them literally to survive. In this case, I'm even thinking of an analogy of a baby, a newborn baby. A newborn baby definitely relies on the mother for survival. That's one analogy. And even as we are in this, for example, for us to be in this session today, somebody invited you. You got to know about this through somebody who told somebody, and now you know about it. So if it was not for the one person who let another one know, you wouldn't be here. So in essence, you needed that person to connect you to this meeting this evening. Now, a good relationship is whereby there is absolute safety and security on a continual basis. This is crucial. And even as I say this, I know Esther is is listening keenly, because some of the things that she's going to begin to bring out to us are going to actually begin to cause us to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, are we really in safe relationships? Do we feel secure in the relationships that we are in? Is there an aspect of security? Are you in a relationship and there's that assurance that you're fine and that you're well taken care of and things will be okay? Or are you in one that makes you want to take off or run away? And I wouldn't get into the negative aspect because we haven't begun to break that down yet. So I'll just come up, say again those characteristics that define a good relationship. A good relationship. One is that the aspect of interdependence, and then there is absolute safety, there is security, and there's the aspect of continuity. You know that you're safe, You know that you're secure. You know that this is a relationship you can rely on. There's an aspect of continuity. And then there's also the aspect of that relationship being fully collaborative. These words are big, but we will break them down. The fact that it's fully collaborative, both of you are actually involved, or the group, the members of the group are actually involved, and everybody feels that they're taking part in whatever is going on. And then there's the aspect of fairness. It's very important for a healthy relationship to exhibit fairness. And then there's justice and sensitivity. So I will say those points again. The first one is interdependence. And then there's absolute safety. There's the aspect of security. There's the aspect of continuity. The relationship is continuous. There's that feeling that it's going to be there for a while. It's fully collaborative. Everybody has an opportunity to be involved and engaged. Then there's cooperation, fairness, justice, and sensitivity. As I say all these things, I am much aware that we are in Africa. And when you look at the way we were raised and the things that we were told, I mean, there are many people who did not have an exactly fair childhood, but you made it and you're here. So we will look at that in detail, even as we break it down in application in our own lives, to see really how that applies and how we can even sometimes turn the tide, especially now that we are raising children. Some of the people in this group, I mean, in this forum, are raising children. Okay. Now, there's something I'd like to say before I get into the different types of a relationship, that a good relationship is built on a solid foundation of friendship. Very important. I mean, you know, there's a lot of cliche. People like to say, oh, you know, so-and-so is my friend. And you really want to find out, what does it mean to have someone as a friend? So a good relationship, any relationship, whatever type of a relationship, needs to be built on a solid foundation of friendship. It's very important for the people who are involved in the relationship to actually be friends. And that is one of the things that makes life interesting when you have a friend. And then the other aspect is of good relationship is the agreement in relation to the values that you hold. You know, it's important to be congruent with the values and behave in a manner congruent with the values that both of you hold, because you'll be surprised. We have different, we subscribe to different values, we think differently, but when we are in a friendship, then we actually agree. By the time we are becoming friends, we look at things from the same standpoint. So we actually agree on the same values. I don't know whether I should stop at that, Esther, for a breather. Anybody who has a comment before we get into the different types of relationships?
That was awesome. You've walked us through what it is that a relationship should have. And I think for me, what I am thinking, and I'm hoping that all of us in the parlor today are actually thinking through the different relationships that we have. And I know you will soon walk us through the different kinds of relationships. I don't want to preempt that. But let's think through, even as Pamela takes us through the next part of this, to tell us what kinds of relationships we all are in. But think about your situation right now and where you're at. What of these elements that she talked about, what is it that is lacking in you? And as we proceed, we shall share with you some case studies and invite you, our guests in the parlor, to give us your take on how we should respond. Because as I said at the beginning of this, as I was introducing this session, we have been receiving a lot of SMSs and messages in WhatsApp from different young people across the country. some of them being bold enough to share their situation. And you can tell that relationships went sour at one point. But how do we help these people to not feel crushed, to not feel like the world has just fallen apart, and to pick themselves and move on? So perhaps, Pamela, you can continue. But what I can say is, if you have any question, any comment, kindly go ahead on the chat platform and type in your question, your comment, and we will be very happy to address that. So for now, Pamela, please continue, and I will keep managing the chats.
All right. Thank you, Esther. Okay, so I will get into the different types of relationships. Now, I am cognizant of the fact that there are some of us who are in this parlor who are widely read. That one I acknowledge. And some of you who actually know more about this subject more than Esther and I. But the idea of having this first session was really to make sure that we are clear on just the definitions, and we are clear on relationships, and really just building a foundation. So we will be getting into details even as we go along in the coming weeks. So this taking you down the types of relationships really is, we wanted to begin on a very basic front, something that is easy to internalize, and then we'll keep building on it. Why I'm saying this is because there are so many different types of relationships. If you go to the internet, you'll find so many. But we decided to begin with the basic block, which is really the 4 types. We have 3 different types. Someone else has come up with 7, 10, but we'll dwell on the 4 for now, for this session. So we have 4 types of relationships. And the first type of relationship is family. And family is a lifelong relationship situation. It is how we define family relationship is a relationship where kinship is involved. It's about kinship, where people are joined together by blood, marriage, or adoption. That's what brings it together. So already that tells you, many of you did not choose your families, you just found yourselves in them, especially the product, the marriage, the children, yeah? Of course, in many instances, of course, the man and woman or husband and wife made that choice, but the children really found themselves in that family. So family is a relationship that is expressed or finds its expression through kinship, and that is either through blood relations, marital relations, or adoption. Adoption is not very high in Kenya, but it is really a real way of being in a family. Now, who do we find in families? We find parents, siblings, relatives, and there's something I have noted that many people keep leaving out. We also have nannies. Nannies are the people who we hire in our homes to raise our children or assist us to raise our children, the housekeepers. There's a tendency to exclude them from that family setup. Not setup, they're not counted as family members. And in some families, they actually have the greatest impact because they spend most of the time with the children. They're at home the longest. So we need to begin to think about housekeepers as part of the family and begin to make very careful decisions in regard to that, and probably be a little bit more deliberate in how we engage them, because they actually are part of our family. Now, a family relationship is lifelong. I mean, I know some of you here who are past teenage have gone through the motions of saying, of telling your parents, I am going to leave this home and I will never come back, because you're thinking, these people are driving me crazy. I'm just going to walk away. And then you realize you're in this to stay. I'm currently raising teenagers. And so we laugh about that sometimes, about how many young people sometimes feel, going on. For some reason, some people want to call me up right now. Sorry about that. So many people feel that they want to, just many teenagers and young people say, there's too many rules here. It's not comfortable. We'll just take off and come back later. No, my friend, family is here to stay. And then the last thing I'd like to say about family is that, and this is very important, Esther, as I was sharing with you earlier, I realized that the bulk of who we are emotionally and relationally is really as a result of whether we were able to form strong bonds in our family or not. Some of us, we have lots of people who are already maybe much older and still struggling with relationships. And you know what happens? There are things that do not take place at the initial stages. And that is what is causing quite a number of people to struggle. And now that we actually are working with young people, some of these things are very real. We have people who, because of the way their debut in with relationships, they cannot relate to leadership, they cannot respect leadership, they're not able to, just submit and things like that. So the bond creation in families is very crucial. Is there a bond that was created? I know that we don't have perfect situations. So in the event where the bond was not created, then there needs to be some deliberate work towards that. But that is very crucial. How you bond initially in your family affects your relationship. The second type of relationship is friendship. This is very interesting. I like this. I like the miracle of just going out there and meeting with a stranger, and the next thing you know, that person becomes your friend. So friendships are actually relationships that are formed out of choice. You now have a choice to make in regard to who your friend is going to be. And so these are characterized by trust, respect, caring about someone, and the need to confide in a specific person or a particular group of people. In friendships, there's also a lot of things that come up is honesty. There's a need to be honest with each other. And then there's also that aspect of wanting to support one another and the loyalty aspect as well. Now, the key thing about friendships is the reciprocal aspect. You cannot have a friend who is cold. They're not reciprocating. You call them, they don't call you back. Like we are normally told, this adage that friendship is two-way. So that's the beauty about friendship. It's reciprocal. And there's got to be something happening between you and your friend for that relationship to actually take on and to be healthy. And much later, when time allows, Esther, I'd like to share a formula that I learned a few years ago about how to just think through your friendships and how to, for lack of a better word, arrange your friendships so that you make sure that you're investing enough in your relationships and you make sure that you have the right people as your friends. The third type of friendship is acquaintances. This are people that you are in contact with because you encounter regularly. It's really not out of choice. It's people that you bump into. And in this case, I'm thinking about neighbors. You have a neighbor in, where you live, and it's someone you see every day. They're not necessarily your friend, but they're in your life because you get to see them every day. You bump into them at the gate, or you have to engage with them because of some emergency. So that's really an acquaintance. So for example, a neighbor, a colleague at work, a classmate if you're a student. So these are people you encounter regularly. And what really characterizes the relationship between you and an acquaintance is really the aspect of being polite and respectful, because let me tell you, as much as an acquaintance may not be a friend or a family member,
I think it's a cable.
An acquaintance, okay, sorry, there's some noise from that end. Even though an acquaintance is not a family member or a personal friend, my friend, if you do not exemplify politeness and respect, that person can make your life extremely difficult, especially if it is a workmate or even a neighbor. So it's important to just exemplify politeness and respect, because that helps you just manage the relationship and it avoids stress. So the main thing about acquaintances, and something that I normally really like, is that an acquaintance is an opportunity for a better relationship. That relationship can grow. I mean, when I think about the Mentors Parlour, we all began as acquaintances. We met in another forum, and today that relationship has moved from acquaintance and it's developing to friendship and things like that. So an acquaintance is a potential relationship. You don't have to pursue it, but it has potential to grow in the event there's interest, whether you have similar interests or you want to work on a project together. That kind of relationship can change. And fourthly, which any young person in this parlor is waiting to hear, and which my teenage daughter kept asking me, "Mommy, where is the slide for romance?" is romantic relationship. And the romantic relationship is a situation where you're strongly attracted to a member of the opposite sex. I will be very deliberate about this one. No apologies to make. This is a strong attraction to a member of the opposite sex. And you could be attracted to their personality or to their physical features, whichever way it is. And the interesting thing about a romantic relationship is that attraction actually needs to be reciprocal. And I think this is the point, Esther, where we begin to talk about crushes. How stressful crushes can be. That you feel this strong attraction towards this person's personality and their physical features, but unfortunately they don't feel the same. So you have to manage those emotions and what you feel depending on what's going on, because unless it is reciprocal, then it may not turn out to be a romantic relationship. So this is a scenario where we have boyfriends and girlfriends, or a husband and wife. And another aspect about the romantic relationship is that it is exclusive and monogamous. I will request to be allowed to just be very specific about something. So yeah, in this case, it ought to be monogamous, so that there's that exclusivity of the two people who are attracted to one another and who probably want to pursue a romantic relationship. Yeah, so that's with the 4 types I wanted to describe and mention, and then I will stop at this point, and allow Esther to come through with some practical experiences, and then I have, I think, 2 or 3 more things to say in light of the source of relationship, who definitely is God, and how He brings it out for us to be able to just understand how deliberate He is about relationships. Thank you. Over to you, Esther.
Thank you very much, Pamela, for that. I like the 4 types of relationships you raise. And of course, there are more. But these, I think, are the core that cut across, and we all can relate to them. You talked about acquaintances, people that we find ourselves being in constant not really relationships, but we often are with. And I remembered one time when I was working, a lady used to say that she has a neighbor from hell. And I think it's one of those neighbors that really don't care what happens. They will pour water outside your window. They will do things, and you really have no choice. Since you're living in rented quarters, you just find yourselves in this space and you have to live with them. So I want to give a few examples. And at this juncture, I wanted to share my screen and share with you a real story that we received from one of the young Kenyans that reached out to us after they heard us speak on Radio Citizen. Because of confidentiality issues, I have removed her name. And I will want to start with this because it's a hot issue that affects us a lot as individuals. So this is a case of a girl, and I've highlighted a few things. So it's an issue of romantic love. She has a daughter now who is 7 months. She is an orphan, but she got pregnant and the boyfriend left her when she was 2 months, denying that the baby was his. And when she sent this message, she was contemplating taking her own life because she had tried to look for work. She couldn't get, and life was just difficult. You can imagine you have nobody, you have no parents. So I'm looking at all these relationships you talked about. Family gives you the cushion, the warmth that we all need to feel that we belong somewhere. So a girl like this has nobody to call family. So she has a story and she reached out to us. And we got to that point of asking ourselves, so how exactly do you help a young girl like this? She's looking for a job. Thank God she has a friend who housed her. But she's one who really, if you listen to her and you read her story, she's not feeling warm and nice about relationships because what she thought she had, a boyfriend who definitely must have showered her with a lot of love, dropped her at her time of need. So I want to open this up, not particularly to you, Pam, but to those who have joined us in the parlor. What would you advise a girl like this? Because we are all in relationships, and if we can take 2 minutes perhaps to give your own honest feedback to a girl like this, what would you say if this girl reached out to you and she's aching, she has no parents, she has a boyfriend who has ditched her, she has no job? Who is brave enough here to want to contribute to supporting a young girl like this? We are open. Karibuni sana. Just unmute your mic.
Shall I volunteer or you prefer?
You could, Wafula, and then open it up to other people and we see what they have to say.
Okay. First, I would say that's really just coming and sharing is a good start.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's really no formula. There's no, like if 2 + 2 is 4, and the circumstances under which we all of us are operating can be very challenging. I've read her letter to you, and she's cornered. She's desperate. She has a baby. The boyfriend is not supporting. She's more like an orphan. So it's a series of complications. And the one thing I would suggest to her is first to pray, really just to pray about this, because God is always there. Even when we don't see him, he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And so pray, but equally, like she has reached out to you.
Yeah.
We would then maybe offline discuss what are her needs and see how she can be assisted, short term and maybe long term. Thank you.
Wow, that's very kind of you, Afula. Does anybody else have something to say about that young lady? What do you think is going through her mind right now in terms of relationship? Do you think she's feeling loved or cared for, or do you get, like me, that she's feeling lonely and angry? What's your take? Again, this is free conversation, a few minutes to hear your opinions. Jane, do you have something to say? I think, Jane, if you're still here, I want to invite you to say something for a minute. I think Jane dropped out. Anybody else who wants to say something? Perhaps Pamela, what would you do? I could ask you to say that because you've really studied this issue of relationship. Or Sarah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe I can just share something.
Yes,
I think I would just encourage her, just to, of course, right now she's all alone, and I'm sure there's that sense of rejection and, low self-worth. So I'd really want to build her up to know that she's not a mistake, that, just like I think Wafula has said, remind her that God sees her, He knows about her, and that she has a purpose, that just try and help her, encourage her to know that, there's still life even after that guy has ditched her, that she can still make something out of her life, and just to encourage her to be strong. And of course, now go ahead and see how I can support her. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much, Sarah, for that. I do agree with you. I think at this time, what she's looking for is people who really care. And the work is done correctly. However, welcome, William. So that was one case. I will share with you another.
Thank you.
I want to share with you before I invite Pamela of another case study. I'm calling them case studies because these are true confessions from people who are aching. Now, I'll leave this is also another romantic one, but this one is a reformed guy who was he's a reformed criminal. But since he was released from prison, his life is hard. Na sitamani narudi nyuma. My whole gang died. And he says, I am only the survivor. I need help. What kind of relationship or what gap do you think this person has? What is this that they are longing for? I am sharing this with you because nobody is an expert in relationship. As Pamela said in her presentation, we all find ourselves. For example, you will find yourself in a family. You are born there. You have no choice. We have not yet engaged this young man to know about his background, where he came from, his parents, or anything like that. But does anybody have words for such a situation? Karibu sana Mokuhe.
Thank you.
Anybody with any words of encouragement for a young man who is an ex-convict? He's out here feeling very frustrated. You can imagine you probably left, assuming he was even in jail for about 10 years, you're back and everything has changed. You don't know where to start. You're looking for your old friends, perhaps the gang that you are with, and you learn that they all died. Who is this person? Who is he relating with? And what is he going through? Let's make this a conversation. I'm welcoming anybody who would like to say something. Before I scroll and look for a name that I can just pick and call. Na nikikuita usiniangushe. Hash. I know I'm picking on you. What would you say about this young man? I hope you can hear me, Hash.
Esther.
Yes, Hash.
difficult one.
I know I've put you on the carpet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you put me on the spot. It's hard to be in somebody's shoes.
Mm.
You can only imagine. I guess it's only the person who's wearing the shoes knows what he's going through. But he's the important thing you mentioned. He's an ex-convict. So I think the only thing or the only hope he has is to leave the baggage behind and use the word effectively. Ex. He's no more a convict. He's paid for his deeds. He should he should look at his skills and life again. Look at what he's good at and just restart and just reboot. I know it's easier said than done, but that's all I can think of at the moment.
Great. Thank you very much. And I think that is really it. For the person to reboot, to realize it's an ex, his past is back, is behind him. How do you look forward? And how do you, maybe he reached out to us to be the friends that he needs to move forward. So perhaps out of this session, if we can have anybody who is willing to journey with this young man, we'll be very happy to connect you with him. I want to pick on someone else again in this group that I saw joining us. Her name is Eunice. Eunice, are you here? Do you have something that you can say to this young man?
Thank you, Esther. Let me have a shot. As Pamela said, and yourself, relationships are tough, and the way I see them is that they are an investment. Picking from there and relating to this case study, therefore, this is one time to withdraw from your investments. If this young person had real relationships before they were
Convicted.
They went to jail. Yes, real relationships as per the presentation given by Pamela. Some friends, and I am thinking some of them could be inside family who will not judge even during the toughest of time. They just accept you for who you are. And some of them will usually be the regular friends, family friends. It is relationships and friendships are an investment. It is a very good time for this young person to look at the investments of the past and see whether there is any. If some of them were truly genuine, they will embrace him because he is feeling a little lost after time lost in jail. And is looking to re-engage. Relationships are also seasonal. There are those that he made before, and for sure he needs to make others now. But he needs to withdraw to the extent possible, and I don't know how possible it is. Some relationships and friendships will be from church. The church is usually very forgiving. The Christian circles, the believer circles are usually very forgiving, and they are a good place to start. And then immediately reboot and begin to create new relationships because he is yearning for some warmth that will help him re-engage in society, and he is unsure whether he will be accepted. So he or she is looking to be accepted, to be embraced, to be reassured, and so that he can re-engage, and that warmth is very important so that he can reboot. For now, I think that's all I would say, and then say, hopefully his request is genuine, because again, you always have to separate the attention seekers, the cry wolves, from the very genuine ones, and from where you're sitting as a mentor, actually you have no luxury of judging. So the only way is to try and engage to validate the need, and then try and guide this person. That's all I could say for now.
Wow. Thank you very much. I think that has given us some direction on what to do with this person. I must confess we have not yet reached out to him, because you're right. After we went on air, we received a lot of requests, and some of them were not real. we had those fake cry wolves, and we had our Oye hat, and we reached out, and then we realized not everyone is as genuine. However, now I want to invite Pamela back to take us through the other 3 points that she had. As she comes on, I want to mention something that she talked about, and it's just sharing my own personal story, that when we look at family, we sometimes forget the people that take care of our children, of our homes. And I want to thank God for a woman that I have lived with in my house for, on 1st of June, we celebrated 21 years being with her, taking care of our children. And she's now family. I mean, you can leave her in this house and you know for sure nothing will ever get lost. But it was an investment. It's not like she's perfect. It's not like she's never done things wrong. But friendships, as Pamela said, require trust, require respect, being honest with each other, correcting each other. And before you know it, you are really, really connected and bonded. So with that, I want to invite Pamela back. Pam, are you still here?
Yes, I am, Esther.
Karibu sana. Please continue with the rest of the points that you wanted to raise.
All right. Excellent. Okay. So far so good, and I like the comments that are coming through. Like we agreed, this is an interactive session, so we are all learning from one another. Now, we talked about, we defined what a relationship is, and we have seen the different types of relationships that we have, or that we're going to focus on this evening. Now, there's something I'd like to share at this point, which I found very interesting about really what is the source of relationships. I've thought about this for a while now. Where did this whole aspect of relationship come from, and why is it important for us to relate? And I believe the source of everything is God, really, when you think about it. And I mean, I'd like to say that unapologetically so. And when you look at the Bible, in Genesis chapter 1, it's the earliest account of creation, how God created everything. And you read the whole of the chapter, from the beginning to all the way to verse 25, God seems to be talking, speaking to the things he wants to come to pass. Let there be this, let there be that, let there be the other. But when he gets to verse 26, he actually says, let us make man. So the minute humanity came around, all of a sudden God refers to the relationship within himself so that he could make man. I don't want this to be a theological class, but we all know that we have God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So when he says, he makes that reference and says, let us make man in our own image and in our own likeness, that already goes to say that when it was time to make humankind, there was an investment, there was an inclusion, there was just a little bit more of attention given to that. And if man was supposed to be, look like God, made in the likeness of God, then definitely that is one of the reasons why we are relational beings, because God himself is relational. And the other thing I looked at in the Bible is about Jesus. We all believe, okay, most of us believe, let me not be cognizant of that fact, that the fact that the reason why Jesus came on earth is so that he can actually give us a prototype of how we should run our lives. And when you look at the way the scenario is that he was born in a family, he grew up with a mother and father and siblings, and then when he turned into teenage, for a while, he made some debut in the synagogue and in some sort of fellowship, like Eunice Kariuki alluded to the importance of just having fellowship around you, Christian fellowship or whatever that it may be. And then the most interesting thing is that when it was time for him to get into ministry, the first thing, some of the basic things that Jesus did at the very beginning of his ministry is actually to look for friends, you know, and it's very clear. He went around, of course, he took time to pray about it. And then he went around, you know, calling them out of their trade and, you know, requesting them to join him. And it was quite, in a few days' time, he had 12 guys, you know, who are his buddies. And the beautiful thing about Jesus's walk is that out of the 12, he took it a little bit further and he had 3 who were closest to him. In fact, the Bible says that he called the disciples that they may be with him. So it means that it did not matter how great a work Jesus had to do or whatever God had asked him to come and do on earth, he could not do it outside relationships. That is how crucial relationships are. So I was trying to just give us a picture how God has made it very clear to us that he is a relational God. And even for Jesus to make his work and his mission here on earth successful, he actually had to relate with people. And I've read a few books here and there, and there's been a lot of discussion about how Jesus actually had the 3 that were closest to him. Then he also had the 12, and then he had the 70, and then he had the 150, you know. That goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, that depending on the kind of relationships that you have, and in the spirit of investing in relationships, sometimes it's good to actually sit back and ask yourself, how well am I investing in the relationships that I have? And maybe that's a question I'd like to ask you today. You know, are you deliberate about the relationships that you have? I mean, I know, like Esther alluded to, there are some relationships that actually go south or they go sour. But by the time that is happening, are you able to say, I give it my all, or I am giving it my all, or I'm working around this relationship, especially if it matters to you, to just make sure that it works? So I'd just like to share with you, excuse me, a few ways that you can use to probably look through your relationships and see which ones you need to invest in and which ones you need to probably even review. And then we'll have an interactive session. Now, there are 5 ways, there are 5 classifications of friendships that I think we need to look at. And if you have these 5 persons or these 5 different kinds of people in your life, my friend, you're going very far and you're going to be very healthy socially. The first one, just a minute. The first one is peers. Now, it is very important to make sure that you have people in your life who are your friends, people who are at your level, people who you can joke with, people you can laugh with, people who you can challenge one another with. Those are your peers, you know. It's very important to be able to sit down and ask myself, who are my peers? Who are my buddies? You know, the people who I can really connect with. That is very important. And it is recommended for the purposes of investment not to have too many. Because if you have too many, then it will not be manageable. So if you can even narrow down to about 2 or 3 people who you really feel are your peers. And one of the things I found very interesting about relationships is that you may actually think someone is your friend, but they may not know that you think that they're your friend. Can I say that again? You may have someone who you think is a very good friend of yours, a buddy, but apparently they may not know that that's what you think of them. And according to them, you may not appear as a friend in their book. So you need to correct that and make sure that that is in place. All right. And then the second one is mentors. Oh, I cannot overemphasize this. We all need to be mentored. I'm telling you, there's nobody who is too senior or who knows too much that they cannot be mentored. We all need to be mentored at one point in time in our lives, and even every other time, whether it is mentoring in the area of family, mentoring in the area of business, mentoring in the area of a specific trade, or maybe you're beginning to learn how to write and things like that. We need mentoring. The third type of friendship is grounders. You need to have grounders in your life. These are people who can come and tell you, Pamela, that was a terrible Zoom presentation. Can you do better? Is there a way that you can probably project your voice? Can you be a little bit more clear? That was a terrible presentation. And you don't take offense, because they're actually your grounders. They're building you, The fourth category is positioners. These are people who will take you places. And I'm telling you, sometimes it even helps to pray that the Lord will bring around positioners, that God will connect you with people who will position you. And these are people who must believe in you to be able to position you. And finally, we need accountability partners, people that you can go and sit with and tell them, you know what? I just messed up. I signed the wrong contract. I said the wrong thing to my boss. I did not even pray this morning. I have not been able to do my finances well. I'm actually running into debt. I am running bankrupt. People who you really can be accountable to. And let me say this. Sometimes there are very many things, especially for young people, so many things we need to do. We need to measure up to so many expectations from parents, from the people around us. And sometimes you need accountability partners to really keep you at par and to really challenge you and keep you accountable so that you are able to implement some of the goals that you have. I believe some of the people in this parlor sat down at the beginning of the year and came up with goals and objectives for your own personal lives. Now, it is June, 6 months into it. Who are you? Do you have someone you can sit with and actually go through that list in the essence of being accountable and say, I've done very well on this one. I have messed up in this one. This one I'm doing 50%. I need to pull up my socks. Do you actually have that space where you actually have one or two or three people you can do one-on-one, or you can sit around as a group as accountability partners? It is very, very important. So I will stop at that point for reactions and comments from everybody. Sorry, I had to put off my video at some point, but I'll get it back as soon as we resume. Thank you. Over to you, Esther.
Oh, thank you very much, Pamela, for this. I have a question though. You've mentioned this fantastic classification of friends. And my question is, can they be one and the same? For example, can my peers, because they have to be very few, people that I can be myself with. I want to laugh, I want to cry. But then there are also people who are grounders, who tell me the truth. I would imagine the peers who I've chosen as my peers should be able to be my grounders because I trust them and I am myself with them. And hopefully, well, I guess they can't be positioners. Maybe positioners is a different category of people who can see the bigger vision that I have. But can they also be accountability partners? So I'm just trying to think, are they all different sets of people, or can they cut across these 5 classifications?
I think if you're lucky, to get people who are your peers and they also sort of can provide that peer mentoring, and they can also be grounders. You could, if you're lucky, yes, you can have people cutting across. That's definitely in order. And that happens a lot, yeah. But I am also privy to the fact that not everybody is that lucky. Or especially for young people, as they may feel that probably they want to, differentiate. So it's really open. You can have people who cut across 3 types, or someone even who is just goes through right through the 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's really a personal thing. You can have those who cut across, and then you can also segment depending on the availability. And probably let me say this at this point. It is very sad that many young people that I've spoken to keep telling me, there are so many people we've approached to mentor us, but we don't know whether they don't know what to do, or whether they are very busy, but we just don't, that availability is really not there. So I know you can also have a situation where you have, assigned somebody, like you said, Nabutola is going to be my mentor, and you put his name down there, but you cannot find Nabutola. He's too busy, or every time you call him, he says, I'll call you back, and he never does. So there are those challenges. I'm alive to that fact, but I believe God is always with us in all this, and somehow things will work out. But it's good to just really have a few people in our lives who we can trust and work with.
That was good, because I was just trying to think through my list of friends, and I'm wondering, there are those who are cutting across, but then there are categories that will actually go blank. So I need to rethink, and I'm wondering if there is anybody else in this group that is scratching their head like me and wondering, who exactly are the people I can put in this? And perhaps as a takeaway, because we have like 5 minutes to wind up, the question for me would be, if we can take time after we finish, just take a piece of paper, draw a table, and try and put the names of people against these areas that Pamela, you have talked about, so that it actually helps us to start realizing, do I really have friends? Do I have people that I can trust, that I can go to? There is a question here by Harun Hawamu, and he's asking, must these people be older than you, or can they be in the same age of yours? Pamela, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I think all these people can be either older than you or same age. Like I said, you may not be able to find people who are older than you. Let me share an experience. 5 years ago, there's a program I went through, and we were actually supposed to pick out mentors in our lives. Now, 5 years ago, I needed a lot of mentoring. I needed someone to mentor me in the area of marriage and family. I needed a mentor in the area of women in politics, because I was in politics at the time. I needed someone to mentor me in the area of a business startup, because I wanted to come up with a startup. I needed somebody to mentor me in the area of trade, international trade. There were so many things going on in my life. And I realized I needed either one person who would fit in all those shoes, or different persons who would walk along with me, alongside me in those areas. And it was very difficult. And actually what ended up happening is I ultimately got, because initially I thought all my mentors ought to be older than me. So I got only 2 ladies who are older than me, who fitted in quite a number of those areas that I mentioned. But then one of the persons who ended up mentoring me in a business startup is actually one of my best friends. She's an age mate of mine. She's doing very well. She set up a farm, and she was doing her 6th year, and she had broken even. So even though she was my age, and we were buddies, she's actually a buddy of mine to date, but I was able to humble myself and embrace emotional intelligence, and allow her to get into that space and mentor me, even though she was a peer of mine, because I needed someone who was practically doing it to walk alongside me. So Harun, yes, you can have someone by the way, you can even have someone who's younger. Let me say that. Right now, we are in a global village virtually, and we must come alive to the fact that some of our young people, and Eunice Kariuki will attest to this, and Esther Mushiri as well, actually know more about IT than we do. And sometimes you actually have to be humble enough to allow a younger person to mentor you in an area. but it needs to be specific, and I mean the boundaries need to be clear. But yeah, you can actually get mentored by someone older, someone at your level or your peer. You can also be mentored downwards, by someone preferably younger, but they know something you need to know more than you do. Yeah, so it's all about flexibility and just making sure the boundaries are very clear.
Wow, thank you very much for that. And someone just threw in a comment, and we haven't had his voice before. Juma from APC, you says that grounders just pop up. They don't necessarily have to be your friends. Could you kindly tell us more? That sounds very interesting.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Evening to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, that is my perspective. I think grounders, because there are people you expect to like prick you. I think they just come naturally as you walk around, as you walk in life. But all the other categories of friends, I think you can choose. That is my view.
Very
Hello?
interesting. I like that. And you're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I will give an example perhaps of the grounders. I don't know whether that is, my example will fit what you're talking about. I remember when I used to work for USAID, when I finished, I went to university as a mother. And I remember when I graduated with a degree in IT, I remember one guy came to my desk and said, Esther, I don't think this is the place for you. I think you need to think of moving out of here. People who go to university at your age usually feel uncomfortable and they see opportunities out there. We were not friends. We were, I guess that is the acquaintance part. We were just colleagues in the office, but they saw something and they just came and said, now that you've graduated, I don't think this is your space. And it just opened something in me, and automatically I started seeing opportunities out there. And I went out and pursued them, and I was the most excited person to retire before I hit 40. So he was a grounder. He saw something in me that I didn't see, but he said it, and it actually changed my path. So you're very right. Thank you for that insight. Mukuhe, what do you have to say?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Esther, what do I have to say? I was thinking about that. What I was thinking is that you could also be intentional. And like Pamela mentioned, I think some of these things is what do you desire? What do you want? And like for me, I have a support group, which when I asked for it, I said I just wanted people in my life who will grow with me, and I was clear that in my mind I knew I wanted people who will push. There will be grounders in the sense that they'll be honest and tell me. There'll be peers. They could be mentors. Positioners, not quite. I haven't seen the positioning, although. And then the accountability partners. So we have a group, and that's what we do, and it is very clear. So even when somebody tells you whatever they tell you, you know it is part of the expectation. And now our objective really is to grow each other and to grow old together. So so we are very purposeful. Even when even when you notice something with somebody, you'll be like, there, I think, you could have. Meanwhile, even before even like after doing some of these presentations in this forum, I'll ask for feedback and I'll get, honest feedback. Perhaps you could have done that or the other. And I'm like, oh yeah, So yeah, I think if you're intentional, I think God has a way of just finding the people to connect you to, because it's been 7 years. We are 6 ladies, and I didn't know any. I knew I knew one personally. Then the others are like a friend of a friend, and a friend of a friend of a friend. So we knew each other, but not directly. And this has proved to be a very, very important group in my growth. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I think all of us are learning from these examples. And I'm wondering, do we have a young person that would like to say something? Who is now forming their friendships and their groups? And they're wondering, do I have all these people? I am giving people permission to speak before I call your name. I'm scrolling up and I know all the young people in here, I think. AJ, you can relax. I'm not calling you today. I want to call someone by the name of Michael. Michael, you're here? If you could talk something about your friendships, and do you think of these 5 categories of peers, mentors, grounders, positioners, and accountability partners, what do you have? Or what do you think you shall build from what you have heard from this conversation?
First of all, I don't know if you can hear me. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
So, please repeat the question. What?
Okay, if you look at your life and from what has been presented by Pamela, she talked about the 5 classifications of friends: the peers, the mentors, the grounders, positioners, and accountability partners. What do you feel? Do you think, as a young person, because I know you're a young person growing in your career, do you feel like you have people in these categories, or what's your takeaway from this session?
Well, I'll just say, among all friends that I know, both friends from back in high school and my friends I knew juicy, I have peers, I have mentors, I have accountability partners, I have friends who are just there for the sake of them. I don't know, they just don't help me for anything. It's true, yeah. So these things are out there. We have, for me personally, yeah, I went down and I became serious and I really wanted to have mentors as friends. See, it's not a must you get someone who is in their 50s, someone in their 40s who needs to be your mentor. Sometimes there are people who are either your age mates who will inspire you, or you look at them and you see they have a good direction in life and you want to be their friend because you want also to follow that good direction. So for me, I have 2 mentors in my one field, that is DJing and music producing. So since I take music so seriously, I don't want to just do it as a hobby or just lightly. I want to do it as a business, and not to just do it for the next 1 year or 2 years, but possibly for the next 10. I don't know. And probably leave a legacy as well. And also for me to be a mentor for someone else who wants to follow in the same passion of music. So as much as I have mentors, I also want to be a mentor to someone else and show them my experiences, what I learned, where they need to step, where they don't need to step, so that they have it, let's say, easy. Accountability partners, yes, I do have, especially financially. And what we call kusema na kutenda, kitu kama hiyo. You know, you can say something, oh, next week I want to do this, I want to go in there, I want to do this, but then the next week comes and you don't do it. You either postpone it or you just ignore it. So some friends remind you that you needed to do something like this week. Have you done it? Then you remember and now you do it. So I have that as well, and I give thanks to these friends of mine, my peers, who we are very close to each other. We share everything, all our joys or all our lows, and I'm really appreciative of them. And I think every other youth out there should have such people. Like, don't have just friends who go out and drink with you. Just have people who also will make you grow mentally and, you know, make you think hard about life. Yeah, I think that's what all I can say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your personal experience of what you have in your circles, and we wish you all the best in what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Guys, we should have wound up by now, and so you will allow me to have Pamela give a few closing remarks. Then I will ask Hash, who will be our next mentor on Monday, to connect this conversation with what he will be speaking about on Monday from 7:30. So Pamela, do you have a few, your last comments perhaps as we close?
Okay, I think I'd just like to say two things, just two sentences, so that, because I believe we've really chewed on a lot.
Yes.
The first thing is something that has already been mentioned. Relationships are investments, and that's just the truth of the matter. It doesn't matter who you're relating with, whether it's someone who is a family member, a friend, an acquaintance, or even if it's in a romantic situation. Relationships are investments. And the second and last thing I'd like to say, your networks is equals to your net worth. The people that you relate with and the people that you're connected with, that is really actually your wealth. That is really who you are and what you're about. So let's be deliberate and let's just give it our best. Let's give it our all, because at the end of it, relationship is really a really pleasant thing to do and a really pleasant thing to have. And thank you so much for my friends that I've had in the past, the mentors, members of the Mentors Parlour, and all the new people that I've met today. And let us keep being deliberate at our relationships. Let's invest, invest, invest. Thank you so much.
Well, bless you, Pamela. That was awesome. Those closing remarks, I don't think I can add anything to it. I will just say I agree with them, and they become my closing remarks. As I invite Hash kindly, how do you connect this to your Monday topic? If you could speak to that and be the person that closes this session for us today.
Amazing. What a session this has been. It's been like a capsule. You know, capsules are very powerful, but yet you don't feel the punch. This was a very soft session, very well done, but a lot of meaningful content to chew upon. Before I get to the Monday session, there's one thing I want to mention that I learned and observed about relationships. I observe nature a lot. We all love nature, and we see different types of plants and trees. So I just thought there are creepers, there are trees, there are plants. They all have their different size and shapes. Creepers depend on trees always. Trees stand on their own, and such such are relationships. There are people who always depend on somebody. They're always creepers. They will rarely add value to your life. There are trees who will stand on their own, and they'll perhaps be a support to the entire ecosystem. So I've learned one thing is you need to, in any relationship, I'm not a guru, is you need to understand if you're dealing with a creeper or a tree, because he's going to chip into your energy. Yeah. So that is something I've observed about relationships. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Now makes me start wondering what kind of a friend I am. Am I a creeper?
Yeah, because you might be with people who always are creeping on you, and you do not realize the emotional burden you carry, and there's very little value you get at the end of the day in return. So that's my 2 cents on relationships. By the way, on Monday, what a coincidence. This week has been great, Esther and Pamela and Mukui. We started with dealing in criticism. We're talking about relationships. On Monday, we're going to be talking about my favorite subject, which is customer relationships. I speak, of course, for those who don't know me, I love speaking and sharing about sales and business development. So how do we get numbers? How do we grow your business? Practical steps of getting customers on the board. So my Monday's topic was going to be how to win customers and build relationships around that side. So Pamela, I'm adding one more to the list of 4, customer relationships. I think that's going to be exciting talks, and I couldn't just stop myself, and I requested Esther if I'm able to pitch for our Monday's talk today, so you guys can relate. We already have a super foundation built in, so let's now translate this foundation of relationships to numbers and see how that particular relation comes up, because in our 8 to 5, I think it matters a lot how we deal with our customers, how we bring them on board, and how we retain them. So I look forward to having you guys on board on Monday. Thanks, Esther. That's it from me.
That is great. I can't wait for that, because definitely all of us must be engaged in a venture. And the reason we all wake up in the morning is to make some money. I know it's been tough during this COVID-19 period, and some businesses are really low. Michael talked about his DJ career, and I was listening to someone's video today, and they said entertainment industry is the last thing that anybody will consider to put money behind, because there are other priorities. So I'm looking at people in Kenya, in the world, who have been affected, those in the hospitality industry. But how do you bounce back? How do you pick yourself and become productive again, start making money? So for me, listening to you on Monday will be crucial, because I'm also in that space where we are trying to reinvent ourselves and wonder, how do we get customers in this technology new normal? And I can't wait to listen to your conversation on Monday. Please grab a friend when you come on Monday. We try our best to keep it to 9 p.m., but usually our talking time is up to 8:30, but we allow conversations to continue because they're quite exciting and we don't want to drop anybody. For now, I want to thank each one of you. If you would like us to share with you the audio recording of this conversation, please leave us your email in the chat, and we shall be very happy to send this to you via email in the next few coming days. Otherwise, it's networking session now. You can leave at pleasure, and let's connect again on Monday at the Mentors Parlour with Hash and Maggie. Asanteni sana, and may God bless you.